So I've been really excited about this interview with Lux. I think we've been trying to do this interview for like about a month and a half or so, and we finally got our schedules to hook up. And we get to talk today about romance writing, the use of disabled people in romance writing and the media in general. I have so much to say about that, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. You had a major life change because of the pandemic, and I think we share almost all of the same disorders except for SSCD, which I would love an explanation on.
That's a new one for me. Apparently, my ear canals have holes in them, which basically means that I have a lot of strange hearing and balance problems that can't otherwise be explained by my other conditions. And I have been told that it is actually relatively common in people who have EDS, that because that cartilage is really thin, it can ultimately lead to these tiny holes. And basically how I figured it out was that I recently discovered that not everyone can hear their eyeballs move, and I can. And I just said to my husband one night, I was like, isn't it so annoying when you're trying to sleep and you can just hear your eyeballs? And he just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I just happened to, a little while later, because I kind of ignored it, because like, I'm sure you can understand, you have all these weird symptoms and you're just like, you know what? If
Am I dying or is it Ehlers-Danlos? Am I dying? Is it POTS? Yeah.
It's like, I kind of just ignored it. I was like, okay, just another weird thing that happens to me that nobody else gets. I don't know. It's strange. And then I came across this shirt on Etsy that said, I can hear my eyeballs move. And then underneath it said SSCD. And I was like, wait, what? What's that? And sure enough, I looked it up, and a lot of the balance problems that I had attributed to POTS and all of my MCAS and various things, I was like, there's something else here that could be involved, and it seems like is involved. So that's one of the newer diagnoses for me. I have many of them, but yeah, apparently I have a hole in my superior semicircular canal in my ear.
Did you get the diagnosis? Did you have to go to like ear, nose, and throat, or do you have a specialist?
So there's the main specialist is in LA right near me. And I was like, hallelujah, this is perfect.
And they're a specialist in SSCD?
Yes. They're like,
my God. Okay.
They're like two of them, and they're both in Los Angeles, and they're both like within like 15-minute drive of me. It's miraculous. That never happens.
I'm so jealous right now. It hurts.
But I had to have a CT scan of my ear, and they had to do like very thin slice CT scan to see if they could see holes. And they have them in both sides. Both sides have them, one more so than the other. And I was just kind of like, I knew it. It's one of those diagnoses, like you're just like, just tell me what I already know. I'm very confident I have this. So I think the next step is kind of looking into actually getting that fixed. Might help me a lot, which would be really nice. But yeah, new diagnosis was something I didn't.
We'll collect them all.
I know. I always joke it's like Pokemon. I'm just like, I'm gathering them.
Yeah, I don't think the zebra should be our animal. I mean, nothing wrong with zebras. They've got tons of attitude, and if you get close to them, they will take you out. So yes, I very much vibe, but I feel like we need like a transformer or something, a honey badger or something that looks cute but will absolutely tear your face off. Like, I feel like that should be more of our animal. Something that collects things, just has a whole den full. Were you able to find an EDS specialist, by the way?
Really? I mean, so
I was curious.
There are a couple locally. I'm lucky.
There are in LA? That's good to know.
I have a really great cardiologist, and I have a really great neurologist, and those two have been like life-saving. And then I have a
amazing
primary. I'm very lucky. I worked very hard to find these people, but right now I have a very good team that's really just on the ball.
I just had my pain clinic doctor go, so how often do you see your Ehlers-Danlos specialist? I'm like, is there one? Because UCSF, the guy retired. There's been no one for 8 years. Like, I'll take someone if you know someone. But I'm up north, so we don't have anyone at Stanford or UCSF right now.
One of the huge benefits of living in a city is just having that access. And I think about it all the time, how other people do not have this access. And even with the access, it's a struggle, and it's, trying to find the right person. When I was looking into getting an MCAS diagnosis, they do have a local MCAS person. They have two of them, and I called both of them, and they're both completely not taking patients. It was like, yeah, even if you're here, if they're not available to you, and I can only imagine what it's like for people who are not in urban areas.
Exactly. Also, I cannot believe how much luck you had with finding someone. I did not find out I had MCAD until I happened to overlook my records, and my cardiologist had put down MCAD. And I was
Oh,
like, I'm sorry, do I have this? And they're like, oh, yeah, I thought you knew. Oh, weird. But no, usually the doctor tells you when you have something. So do you want to tell me I have this? And they're like, well, you certainly have it. I'm like, great. Then can you just put it down as the diagnosis so I don't have to go through all this BS? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I don't see a problem with it. I'm like, great. Thank you. That'd be lovely.
yeah.
After, 25 years of trying to get a diagnosis, it's so insane. During the pandemic, you had major life changes.
Yeah.
And not just diagnoses, like you had a major switch.
Yeah. Well, I was basically when the pandemic started, I did not have a diagnosis at that point. And I was probably, towards the lowest I've ever been just physically. I was in really bad shape. And I had been going to warm water physical therapy, which I was doing, and they shut that down during the pandemic because it was, multiple people in the water, lots of, potential for contamination. And it was just like horrible timing for me because I really needed it. And I still didn't have answers as to what was actually wrong with me. And it was kind of my only pain management option. And so when I did that, it was basically like that was all I had going. Then my industry, I was doing wedding photography.
Me too. I used to do that for years.
It completely shut down during the pandemic. There were not weddings happening. It was just kind of like I suddenly had nothing going on and I was very sick and I was spending a lot of time just like laying down because when I stood up, I felt awful and I didn't do that math at the time as to what was going on there. I just thought anytime I moved or tried to do anything, I felt bad. And so I was spending a lot of time laying on the couch, laying in bed. And I also have narcolepsy, collecting the disorders. And so I was very tired and I was like, maybe that's what's going on with me. Maybe I'm just, it's just narcolepsy. I'm just way more tired for whatever reason. And I started writing romance novels online. It was just kind of this thing that I stumbled into. I don't know if you've ever heard of the After series or the After movies. It's basically this gal wrote this Harry Styles fan fiction online and it turned into a whole movie series. And around that same time, people were talking about this movie series about to come out. And I was just kind of fascinated with this. I was like, how does this happen? How do you write a fan fiction about a real person and that turns into, movies and a book series? And so I got on Wattpad, which was the platform that she wrote this on. And it was really interesting. I thought it was, it was very like non-traditional writing because this writer was a novice. She was doing something for fun. She was just doing what she enjoyed. But it was really compelling and really fun. And I totally saw the appeal. And I was like, well, I want to try this. I've got nothing else going on. I want to try writing on this platform, just see what happens. And because I was sick at the time and I was reading other romance and stuff like that, I was like, well, I want romance with a chronically ill character because I was just kind of constantly stumbling upon these characters that I couldn't relate to. And it was like silly little things. Like I remember like every time I read a book, they were going out clubbing and dancing. And I was just like, I could never. It's like, and she's yeah. And it's just like, it's little things, just like, like I said, like the wearing uncomfortable shoes and, like going places and just eating whatever you want. And like just silly little things that I was like, that's so unrealistic. But it is realistic for a lot of people, but it was not realistic for me. And I was just like, wouldn't it be kind of fun to try this, to try writing, fun? Because I wrote a paranormal romance and I was like, I want a paranormal romance, but I want her to be more like me, someone that I can like relate to. And I'm not always going like, oh, I can't do that. It had that kind of like negative feeling of like, oh, I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like the heroines. I'm not, special or lovable kind of thing, and it's just this slow kind of gradual message that I was getting from a lot of these romances. It's like, this isn't you. And to my surprise, it took off. I think now I think the first book has 2.5 million reads, which is unreal to me. And like the whole series has like well over 3 million reads. And it's just, Every time I turn around and look at the number, it's always really high and it's getting higher. And there was a lot of chronically ill people out there who were like, I love this. I want this in my life. I I feel seen by this. I mean, I just was talking to this gal who I'm actually working with. She's going through and pulling quotes for marketing purposes for me. And she just happened to say like, oh, actually, I'm chronically ill. And like, I feel really seen by this. And I was just like, oh, you're chronically ill too. And like, people were kind of all of a sudden popping up, and people that I didn't know were ill and having trouble. And it was this really positive response, because I think a lot of people were feeling exactly the way I was feeling, where it was like, I'm not in these books. These books aren't for me. They're for the healthy people, and I can kind of put myself in the character's shoes. But, I will have those jarring moments where I'm like, oh, I'm not really heroine material. I'm not really, supposed to be the star of the show. I'm supposed to be the, supporting character kind of feeling. And giving people that character was both really, really good for me, and kind of working through my own feelings of, do I count as the main character? Do I feel like the main character, sort of thing? And also letting other people experience this character and have conversations about those. It was really fantastic and really positive. And I got so much of that positive response that I realized this is something everybody needs, that I didn't really realize that I was addressing a need for other people. It was just kind of a need for me. And it very much turned into addressing a need for everyone else too.
It's the thing, we never free just ourselves. Whenever we do something, we always free everyone else around us. When it comes to those tropes, like you talked about, like, the going clubbing and dancing, or, going for the coffee dates, or all the other like tropes that we see in the novels, or especially in romance novels. And I don't know about yours, because I have not gotten to read it yet, and I'm very excited too. But we see a lot of like formula for it. And a lot of that is around like the romantic gestures. Is there certain romantic gestures you're able to put into your book that are specific to disability and chronic illness?
Yeah. So part of in my book, it's a human girl who has, at the time, undiagnosed issues, because that's exactly what I was going through. And I kind of wanted her to be in this middle zone of not being diagnosed yet, but having a lot of symptoms. And the man she meets is a siren of Greek myth. So he's kind of got like these attraction powers. And one of his powers is that he can basically compel people to do things or feel things with his words. So one of the first things I do is have him like compel her to help take her nausea away when she's feeling bad.
The marriage isn't that serious, right? Because I think I might. I just do not throw up all the time. That would be wow. That's one heck of a use. I swoon just with that one alone. Like, forget the flowers, forget the chocolates, make me stop vomiting.
Well, and he also is kind of slowly exposed to the medical world through her, because he's immortal. He's not really going to hospitals too often. That's not really what he does with his life. And he's very much appalled by, how bad it is, and how much of a struggle she is experiencing through this whole thing. And at one point he has to touch someone to compel them. And he like grabs the doctor's hand, and he's like, you're going to start treating her better, and you're going to listen to her, and you're going to, go get a better doctor for her. And like, basically just all the things that I wish I could compel people to do.
I think the last time I felt this weak in the knees, it was that TikTok guy who's Scottish, who keeps talking about thick-thighed, big-bellied women in like cuteless sundresses, and I'm like, Scotland's not that far, right? I love my husband, but man, if I saw, can he call my insurance company and compel them? Like, I think you have a winner here. I'm swooning.
And one of the ones that I actually did that was totally inspired by my own husband is there's a part in the second book where they ask her ex-boyfriend, who's currently on her emergency contact, like, do you have her medication list or anything like that? And he's got no idea. And then they ask the new guy, and he's like, yeah, she's on this, she's on this, she's on this. And he like remembers all the things she's currently taking. And it's just like, for me, when my husband does that, I'm just like, he's so great, because he like so hard, especially when you have that brain fog and you're being asked a million questions and you're going to another doctor and you're saying the same things over and over again. And you're like, what medications am I on now? Have they changed recently? Do I need to update anything? It's such a mentally taxing thing. And when my husband will do that and be like, he's got a list on his phone that he like keeps up with. He's an engineer, so that's very much like his style. He's got a little app and everything. And he's like, here are the things.
The best husbands, everyone. Just letting you all know. IT and engineering, that is where you find the very good men.
It's true.
Mine's IT.
But it was just like, when he's done that for me several times, I was like, that is, to me, like such a moment, such an example of devotion where it's like, these are the things that matter to the person I love. And my husband, healthiest guy ever. He's totally fine. Like everything about his health is just always perfect all the time. He almost never gets sick. Like I'm the exact opposite. And yet he's still like completely invested in healthcare and my well-being. He will go with me to my appointments just because he knows that having a white guy there is really helpful. And, I will be taken more seriously. And so, he will be like, okay, I have work, but I'll come get you, pick you up for your appointment midday and we'll go, because he knows the value of things like that. And so for me, like a lot of those little things of just like keeping up with what's going on with me, that is such a romantic gesture that I wanted to include that as well, not just on a, supernatural level, but on a more human natural level of this is, what kind of anyone can do for their loved one with chronic illness.
If we keep watching these green flag, red flag TikToks, I do think it's becoming a paranormal experience to find someone who's when diagnosis went through, my physical therapist took my husband aside and was like, she's not lying. Your disorder has a 60% divorce rate. My husband already started doing like all this stuff, but it's like, this one was ready to propose to my husband after he told her all the stuff that he does at home because I'm too sick to do it. And she's like, and you just did that without me having to tell you that she can't do it. Yes, I love my wife. Like it's a wild world out there. What were you noticing? Because I'm assuming you used to read romance novels, right? Like you didn't just like jump
Still
into
do all the time. I'm a big reader.
And I was wondering what you'd seen so far. Is that's not there's I have no issues with the genre at all. It's just not something I've picked up yet, and I would love to if you have some good recommendations. But what were you noticing that you'd found with disability in this genre? Were there other people writing it? Were they writing it well? Because I certainly am up on the T in that industry, and there's a lot of issues with race in the industry. I wasn't sure if there's also the same issues with disability.
There's certainly a very famous example. I don't know if you know too much about the book or the movie Me Before You. Have you heard about this at all?
Yeah, sorry. No, that wasn't supposed to come as a growl. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I've heard of it. So much I've heard of it. Yeah. We are disabled, so therefore the only thing we can do is die as quickly as possible to make everyone around us happier.
Yes. And there's a lot of, that one is extreme. That one is a very, egregious example. But there's a lot of that kind of concept of disabled person as burden, and it can either come out as, the disabled person just like, oh, I have to leave you because I don't want to burden you with having me in your life. And then that's the reason that they use for the third act breakup is kind of a classic thing in romance. It's like, well, I'm going to leave you because you can't, I don't want to put this burden on you and, have me in your life being a problem for you. But they also do it in subtler ways where it's like, see what a good guy he is because he, vaguely tolerates her disability. Like, and it's something that you will get in real life, as a disabled person, you'll get people saying to you like, oh my God, your husband is just a saint. Just a saint for dealing with you. Oh my God,
You better hold on to that one because no one will ever take care of you again. Yeah, that
comes across in romance, usually written by able-bodied people. It's usually this idea of like, look what a great guy he is, that he doesn't even care that she's in a wheelchair or whatever. And it's like, that's kind of bare minimum, and we should treat it as bare minimum. And when you read it as in that form of, oh, it's so special and what a saintly thing to do, it's still giving you the impression that like, oh, being a decent human and caring about a person beyond their physical ability, that's the high bar. And it should be the low bar. It should be the bare minimum. And it's just kind of this ongoing thing that you'll see. On top of that, there's a lot of heavy emphasis on cures and cure storylines. And that's something you get with all of media, but I think that it is particularly prevalent in romance, partially because of the happy ending. Because, if you talk to most people in the genre, the happy ending is quintessential for the genre. If it doesn't have a happy ending, it's not really romance. It's something else. It might be a romantic plot, but it's not romance unless it has that happy ending. And a lot of authors seem to think the happy ending means everyone is healthy. And the only way to have that happy ending is to solve whatever's going on with the disabled person. Sometimes it's, and the billionaire came along and bought her the surgery she needs. sometimes it's more dramatic. I've seen a number of like love cure takes where it's like, oh, their love just made them feel better. Or that happens a lot, especially with mental illness, where it's like, oh, they were depressed, but then they fell in love and everything's fine. Or they had PTSD, but then their PTSD went away because they're in love. One that I read not too long ago was someone had a stutter, and they had a stutter until they talked to the person that they fell in love with, and suddenly the stutter was gone. And anytime the person they fell in love with was around, the stutter was just disappeared. And it was just like, can we not do that ever? Yeah. What I've said before is I think what it comes down to is this idea that disability is a plot point and not that disability is a part of someone's identity. Because we do not try to solve identities of characters. Like we're not going to try to solve someone's race or ethnicity. We're not going to try and solve someone's religion. We understand that that's a part of who they are. That's what they're going to be at the beginning, and that's what they're going to be at the ending. But with disability, a lot of people put it in the category of trying to make it a plot point. And when they do that, it's like, oh, well, we need to resolve it. We'll come full circle and explain how, that started. Now that goes away. And it's unfortunately pretty harmful when you're reading about someone who's disabled and you're disabled yourself. And then in order for them to be happy, that has to get better. And so like you get this kind of low level subliminal message that the only way that you can be happy is if you're fixed, if your problems are solved, if your disability goes away. And I was internalizing that when I was reading this kind of stuff. It was like, oh, I'm not necessarily, thinking it logically. I'm not going like, oh, well, I guess my disability needs to be fixed to be happy. I'm just kind of getting negative feelings when I'm reading things and going like, like that's never going to be me, or even that's not me now. It feels so foreign when you're, especially in this place of like, you don't even have a diagnosis, let alone a cure. And it's so alienating. And it does give you that message of this isn't for me, the happy ending's not for me, this, romance isn't for me, or, having adventures isn't for me, whatever it may be.
That's really interesting. And also like what you're saying about the cure is really fascinating to me, that I think it almost goes back to that fairy tale idea of like the kiss cures death. Like real love, you'll know it's real because you'll get this like, and instead of like real love is about that actual like caregiving. Like Bridgerton, I feel like is like such a interesting example of like that genre. And then when we got the Charlotte, and we finally got this I have not read the books, I've only seen the show, and I'm obsessed with the show, but like
her show yet. I really want to, but I know obviously
love
that
for you to see it. The thing is like in that, it wasn't that she cured his mental illness. It was that with love and understanding, they could create a real marriage even alongside that. And it was a part of their lives. But I thought this was a really beautiful storyline in not discounting mental health, and that your romance is not going to cure a mental health issue, especially if that mental health issue is a actual biological mental health issue. Like your coconut oil yoga and sex do not cure any of our DNA. That's just how that goes. So sorry, everyone who was banking on that as the theme. You had your book go very viral, and I'm really wondering what that experience was like, because it's one thing to write for yourself in a little room, and then, a la most of the people we know who are writers just like peek their heads out, hand it out to everyone, and then just turn off social media and then run back to their cabin or their space in the woods and don't talk to anyone. What was it like in real time to be writing a book where people, I'm going to guess, had a lot to say?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I know a lot of people, when they have viral moments, get a lot of negativity. And I was very lucky that it was like 99% incredibly positive feedback. And I think part of that was just pure luck, is that I had kind of attracted the right tribe there. But honestly, it was really like validating coming from, this point of really struggling with my health and trying to kind of create something with this free time that I had. I just did not expect it to go anywhere. I literally thought like maybe they're like, my husband's going to read it, nobody else is going to read it. Like maybe one person, maybe a couple people. To have people actually saying like, oh, this like, paranormal romance thing you wrote like helped me, feel better about myself, feel better about what I'm going through. That was that was the dream. Like, that was the ideal situation for me to not only have that happen, but to get people giving me that feedback and telling me that that's happening and that, what I'm doing was making a difference to them. Kind of thought, it's paranormal romance. It's this silly, goofy thing that I'm writing. It's mostly just kind of my attempt to, explore this genre and explore this world and have fun with it and kind of create something while I can't do much else. And I think I really underestimated the effect that it could have. And it makes sense in hindsight because I've had a lot of, romance books that were very powerful to me and meant something to me. And it was just really surprising that I could do that for other people, that I could be the person who was writing the thing. I mean, I remember specifically the day that it really started taking off. I was having this kind of slow progress once I finished the first book, and it's a 2-book duology. And once I finished the first book, I had a little bit of traction, and it was I had 100 reads and 200 reads, and I was like, wow, this is going well. And then I hit 1,000 reads and I was like, okay, this is something. And then I took a nap and I woke up and it was 3 p.m. or something, long midday nap. And I was exhausted. And I woke up and I had 1,000 new reads in a day, in a few hours. And I was just like, what? What's happened? What happened? And what happened is it started trending in some really big hashtags. Was basically I think the first big trending tag was paranormal romance, and it was number 10 or something in paranormal romance. And I'm unclear exactly how that happened, other than it was just building the right kind of following and it hit the right numbers. But from there, it was just kind of this snowball effect of, it was, I think for about a week straight, I had 10,000 reads a day. And that I had no idea what to do with it. I was getting a ton of comments, a ton of interaction, people saying, I love this. This is fantastic. Also just engaging with the story. I hate this character, or I love this character, or what's going to happen, and even having interactions with each other and, theorizing and things. And that was really fun, kind of out of body experience to have people talking about something that you created and made from nothing. And then people are talking about it like it's a real book, and I was just kind of flabbergasted, and it just kept getting bigger. And then Wattpad contacted me and they said they wanted me to be a part of their paid program. And then I was able to sell the books for a couple years through them, and people paid for them. Just I thought, oh, if you're going to sell them, people are going to lose interest because they're not free, and it wasn't the case at all. And I just nowadays when I write, every single week when I post a chapter, I will have people commenting immediately on that chapter going I was waiting for this, I was checking my phone, and it's this bizarre feeling. It's I'm almost famous, and every once in a while people will act like I am famous. I got a message from someone. They said, oh, I just love your story. And I commented back and I was like, oh, thank you so much. That's so nice of you. And they were like, I can't believe you wrote back to me. I never thought you'd actually write back to me. This just made my day. And I was like, me? They were acting like I was a big deal. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm sitting in my PJs on my couch. I'm not a big deal, I promise. But there is this element of, fandom that I have built and that I am so incredibly grateful for. It was so out of body. It was so otherworldly of an experience to be engaging on this level and to just have it be just overwhelmingly positive. And I think it says a lot about how much need there was for what I was making. Because yeah, sure, I like to think I'm a great writer and all, but a lot of great writers don't have viral moments. They don't luck into, what people need in that moment. And I think I very much did.
Really interesting. Did you learn anything about your own experience because of writing this? Did writing this character clarify anything for you?
I think for me, when I was writing it, I was very much in this place of I just wanted to feel like the heroine. I wanted to feel lovable. And I didn't feel lovable. And that wasn't I was very lucky to have a husband who has always been supportive, always, reacted in the best possible ways when I was going through all this health stuff, and still am going through this health stuff. But at the same time, it was all the messaging that you get as a woman about what is attractive, what is lovable, what is valued. And a lot of times when you are sick, you are not those things. Like you don't frequently see, like, yeah, like, hair falling out. You can still be lovable if your hair is falling out. You can still be lovable if, your skin is really acting up. If you have horrible rashes, if, like a lot of these physical things that we've come to associate with, like, that is not attractive, that is not lovable. Like, I was going through those things. I was like constantly sweating. That is not an attractive feeling. When you are sticky, you do not feel attractive. That's just that's just how it works. And I had to work through
That's weight gain, all of these things that we like go through just from like our medication changes.
Exactly. And I was so aware of all the ways in which my body was failing me that I didn't feel like I was living up to society's standards of what was attractive and what was lovable. And, it wasn't a message I was getting from my husband, the person who loved me, but it was a message that I was kind of getting from the world. And, all your life, especially as a woman, you are getting these messages. And when you're suddenly not feeling like you're living up to the standards like you once were and you cannot control it, it feels like, my God, I am this huge burden. I am this, embarrassment and it wasn't true and it wasn't reality. And like, my husband was like, you look great. I still love you. I don't care if you're sweaty, whatever. And I wasn't feeling that. But when I was writing about this other person, it was taking it away from being this personal issue and separating it from me. And it was now, okay, it's this other character. It's this person that I'm writing about. And it became actually quite easy to see why this person was lovable and why someone would be attracted to this person, because I was able to separate it from myself and all of the kind of internal baggage that comes with your own, sense of insecurity. And I was kind of able to go like, okay, no, she's actually really great and she's really cool. And because I was writing in both perspectives of the male character and the female character, it was very like obvious to me why he would like her and, why she would like him and how much value she had as a character because I was looking from the outside in. And that kind of rewrote some things in my brain where it was like, well, maybe I am lovable. Maybe I am attractive because she can be attractive and lovable. And, she can, be sexy and have sex and be interesting and do these adventures. And I don't see a problem with that. So I kind of had to take another look at myself and be like, you know what? I see the value in me. I see how my husband can look at me and go, oh yeah, she's great and lovable and sexy. It actually has nothing to do with these things that society has told me are where my value lies.
I was really curious about that because I feel like we can usually look at other people. There's so much healing I had just in having a daughter, like my own daughter, and being able to like love her and give her like all that, and then look at myself and go, why am I so mean to me? And so then I had to like rewrite everything I was saying in my head of like, would I say that to my child? And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, we got to reframe that inside the head. And I was just curious. It's like, I hear all the authors talking about like, my books are my babies, my characters are my kids. And I'm like, I wonder if that works the same way. I'm very curious what it's been like to be someone who's disabled, who is writing a book, like the physicality of it. I have a hard time even commenting on social media with like typing. I usually do video replies because my hands hurt so badly. Is there tools that you're using with do you to try to keep all those plot lines? Are you using things like Scrivener? What are some of like the
I do have Scrivener and I love Scrivener. Super great if you have, brain fog or difficulty arranging ideas or focusing, that sort of stuff. Love that. I think honestly, like most authors can benefit from Scrivener. I'm very much, the planner style author, but I think just about anyone can benefit from using Scrivener because it's a really good organizational tool. But one of the things I do is I actually write a lot in the bath. I need that like warm, moist heat. That's kind of how I'm able to function a lot of the times. And I got one of those little bamboo trays and I got a little keyboard for my phone. And I just use the keyboard and I sit my phone in the keyboard and I just kind of work while I'm warm as humanly possible to just kind of like get rid of a lot of that pain and discomfort, because it is hard. And there are times when like I have difficulty looking at screens for too often. And I know that's a problem a lot of people have. That's why I wear these glasses actually, is they're blue light glasses. They're not like for my vision as much as they are for kind of minimizing how much light gets into my eyes. Cause I'm very sensorily sensitive. And there are times when I like cannot look at a screen, and I've just had to kind of like, you know what, those moments I don't get writing done. Like those are not my moments for writing. Those are my moments for doing something else. And when I'm kind of able to get in that writing mode, I'm like, okay, I'll do it now. I'll do it then. You can have like the dark screen and that sort of thing. But it's also about kind of knowing your body and listening to it. And if it's a moment where like I'm not cut out for this, then I don't write. But I always try to take advantage of those moments when I am in the right space where like I'm feeling good and I can do the writing, and then I just power through. I have a background in journalism. My degree was in journalism, and I was in the field for 6 years or so. It helped a lot with like having that ability to push through, and like now is the moment you write, and you have a deadline, you've got to push. And I'm lucky that because of that, I can really take advantage of those moments when I do have, the ability to focus and write. And that's my moment. And then I'm like hauling, going as fast as I can, and often in the back.
That is I never thought about that, but that is a really interesting way to be able to stay comfortable. Like, I don't know if you've tried using like Epsom salt baths, but that's like one of the only ways to stop the spasms. I'm like, gosh, that might actually help to be able to get some of this like typing and writing done, as if like the muscles are being like relaxed enough that you can physically do that.
I have a big old bucket of Epsom salts with a scoop. I use it all the time. Right? My husband got me this great pillow set. It's not super it's probably not conducive to writing, but it's really great when your joints suck. It's like a long pillow that goes under your knees, and then like a little round pillow around the neck for lying in the bath. And it's just really? Like, you basically like floating. It's magical.
I might ask you to send me that Amazon. I'm sure it's on Amazon. Is that right? Like, just send me that so I can put this.
I don't know if it's on Amazon. It's like, it was very specific. It was amazing. Like some company that makes it, but it was so great. It's so great.
So I was going on a deep dive on all of your content, and I ran across your blog, which was really helpful, informative, and amazing. And I was hoping you would tell me a little bit about the blog post, A Frustrating Year.
Yeah. So I had several kind of false starts with my books. There was a moment there where I was holding off on publishing because I had a potential offer for some sort of visual media, movie, TV sort of situation. That's exciting. I was really excited, but it just basically fell through. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and publish. And around the same time, I got a call about a publishing deal, a more traditional publishing deal. It was just kind of perfect. It was the right time. It was the right deal. It really was something that I had wished for a long time. I was like, wow, I'm going to be traditionally published. This is kind of everything I wanted. And it was, the terms were really good. And I felt like this is working out. This is going the way I wanted. I signed a contract with this company, and as far as I knew, everything was good. And they said, okay, we're going to be sending you proofs for the cover next week. And I was like, okay, great. I'd been, working with them for a couple months, and this is around the time I was supposed to receive the cover. And the next week kind of went by, and I didn't get anything, but people are flaky sometimes. That happens. Okay, I wasn't too concerned. And then the next week I get an email. It was very, very clinical, very legalese. We have terminated your contract. All rights have come, reverted back to you. Best of luck. Just from what I could tell from the email, it sounded like they had overinvested in some other projects, and they were canceling all their existing projects. That was pretty devastating. That was a hard email to get, especially because I thought everything was fine. And I was kind of like at the point where I'm expecting cover, and like we were talking about like, okay, here's when I'm going to announce it. And like, it just really blindsided me. And I remember I just got this email, and I just kind of like started sobbing. I was just like, what happened? This is the second big thing that's kind of fallen through for me.
Did you go out and look for these publishers, or did they just come to find you?
No, they came to me. It was, based on the viral success, they wanted to work with me. And, when it comes to media, that stuff, that's inherently, it falls through all the time. It's very common. If you hear, people are working on TV shows, movies, projects, that stuff falls through a lot. That's very expected. The book deal, that does not happen most of the time. So that was very unexpected and very heartbreaking because it was just really out of left field. Last I had heard, everything was good. And I kind of, at that point, was like, okay, at that point, it had been, 4 years since I had started writing these books. And I was like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to put these books in the hands of another company that is potentially going to let me down. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to self-publish. And that was a scary thing. It's still scary. The books come out in 2 weeks. So it's, peak stress time right now. I just felt like my readers had been asking me for a long time, we want physical copies. We want to have these books. And I had been saying, they're coming. They're coming. And finally I was like, I'm not letting anybody down. I can't control, other people, corporations, whatever. I can't control anybody but me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to, find help with the design, and I'm going to put together an actual physical book, and I'm just going to kind of make it happen. And I have, it's, coming out in October, and as far as I know, everything's good. But it was, a couple months of just wallowing before I got to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this now. I'm in a better place where I can just say, okay, I'm going to make it happen. I'm not putting it on, on the shoulders of anyone else. I'm going to kind of take control of the project.
And we can only control what we can control. And when we, hand that over, then it's completely out of pause, like you're doing editors and changes. Were you going through Amazon Kindle, or are you doing it like
I'm currently publishing through Ingram Spark, which is like a self-publishing company. It's a subsidiary of Ingram, which is just a larger publishing company that owns a bunch of the publishing houses. And then the book's also going to be on Kindle Unlimited.
Cool. I'm very excited for that to come out. But you now have a lot of work that a publishing house would have usually done for you. How are you managing things for yourself? And your disabilities and doing all the social media and all of the stuff.
I am so bad at social media. It's funny because I many moons ago when I was a journalist, ran the social media for our, publication. And like, I did that professionally. When it comes to promoting myself, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just like promoting a company, like, yeah, I'm on top of it. I got it. Promoting myself, I'm like, I don't know. Can you just read it? Here's the book. Can you read it, please? Thank you.
Least favorite question. So what's your book about? I don't know. I've never written a thing in my life. I've never met these characters. I have no idea what you're talking. The elevator pitch for my book, it's words on a page.
Yeah, it's very like unfamiliar and unnatural to me to do the promo stuff. Like it's funny because I, at some point, was talking to a reader and they said, I don't know how you do it all because I feel like I can't do anything in a day. And I was like, I feel like I can't do anything in a day. Like, I guess from the outside, it looks like I'm doing great. I don't know what you're seeing.
You don't see the worst of it. That's how.
Yeah. Well, there's this quote. I don't remember what it's from, but I remember seeing it somewhere, and it says, you can't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's best of. It's basically
to be written across every social media platform.
Yeah. You are only seeing, the highlights of someone else's life and someone else's world, and you're seeing the behind the scenes of your own. So when you're doing that comparison, it's like, yeah, she's really got it together. She's writing all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, like, I'm in the bath just like typing and barely surviving and thinking like, oh man, I'm really a mess right now. And then someone out there is thinking like, wow, you're writing so much and you're getting so much accomplishment. But I've also been very lucky that I have been able to hire people who are great at what they do. My cover designer, she goes by Little Forest Cat. She's fantastic, and she was able to do a lot of stuff for me. And my husband has helped me with a lot of programming stuff to help make things easier for me. And so like he'll like auto program certain things to function. And then I was also just totally lucked out in the fact that because I do have that journalism background, understand page design and layout. So I was able to design my own book, which I would not recommend for most people because even as someone who's done quite a bit of page design, it was a pain, but I did it and I really like how it came out. But it was Like, I have been professionally trained in page design, so I had that kind of background going for me and was able to work with it. But otherwise, I would have hired that out in a second.
I write and illustrate kids' books, and I can tell you I have like 10 books that are done, illustrated, and finished, but are not published because of the page design issues, and I just don't want to deal.
Page design is an art form. It's something that I knew because I worked in magazines, and I had done the magazine side of it. The book side of it, if you don't want to put in a good 40 hours minimum of learning, don't do it. You outsource that. There are people who are great at what they do and will do the page design for you, and it's worth it.
So Silicon Valley, anyone wants to make a lot of money really fast, use AI for this. Program something, not generative AI. We hate generative AI, but make an app so that we can just put in our scripts, our images, give you a general idea of what we want, and then it publishes, it sets it up. That's what AI should be used for.
You know what's funny?
These are used for the minutiae, not for the creation.
I made the page design, and then I had my husband, he's a very talented programmer. He made a program to import everything from Scrivener into the design files that I had, and it just saved countless hours.
He made that available. How much is he charging?
He really should. I was saying he should make it like a tool or something available, and he's like, I don't know if I could, maybe. But it's
like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, not all of us have someone who will program for us. That's helpful.
The resources I have are very convenient for what it is I'm doing.
My husband does IT for a living, and I'm the one who does all the tech stuff at home because he's like, don't know. No, I will use a calculator. That's as much tech as I'm willing to use at home.
I think my husband's the opposite. My husband's like, if you just even mention the idea of a project, he's just all of a sudden, he's got it on his computer. He's like, yeah, I can code that.
I vibe that very much. We are coming up on an hour, and I wanted to make sure I talked to you a little bit about service dogs because you had mentioned something about service dogs being your how in that process.
So my dog kind of started training himself.
Do that, don't they?
It was the funniest thing. So I have a Chihuahua Pit Bull mix. He's like this big, and he's like basically just a really buff Chihuahua.
I got pictures of this. Please send me pictures of this.
When I started working with a physical therapist who told me he didn't want me to go over 135 heart rate at any time. So if any time I get over that, I should stop whatever I'm doing and let my heart rate calm down. And so I started taking my dog on walks, and I would be watching my heart rate on my watch. When it would get to 135, I'd stop or I'd slow down. After about a week of it, my dog started stopping me and slowing me down before I even checked my watch. And I was just like, that can't be. What are the odds? I thought I was kind of imagining things, but he would do it again and again, and he would even dig in his heels. If I was like, what are you doing? And he's always at the end of the leash. He's a runner. He wants to be at the end of that leash. And so all of a sudden he was digging in like, no, I'm not moving. And I was totally lost. I had no idea what he was doing. And then I would check my watch, and it would be way too high. And I'd be like, are you stopping me? And it happened enough times that I told my husband, I'm like, I think he's learned to stop me for my heart rate. And my husband was kind of like, that can't be right. And then he started watching him, and he kept doing it. And since then, he's incredibly consistent. He does it every single time. He's really good about it. And he's really good about what do they call it? Intelligent disobedience, where he will just say no. Like, you need to listen to me. Your heart rate is too high. And I think what it was is that I don't know if he picked up on like my the sound of my heartbeat. I don't know if he picked up on the way I was acting, or there's something about my gait, but he is wildly consistent and really good about monitoring my heart rate to the point where I can go on long walks with him. And if I do it by myself, I'm out of breath, I'm sick. Like, I can't do it as well as he can do it. And amazing. I started realizing like, okay, I guess I could use this. Like, this is super helpful. I need to start training him as a service dog so I can take him places. And so a lot of our process right now has been not actually working on the service task as much as working on the obedience tasks and making sure that he is good in public and comfortable. And he's a very, very smart dog, like way smarter than I ever expected any dog would be. He uses the talking buttons. He has a bunch of buttons.
Oh, wait, what does he say?
Yeah, he will request what he wants. He will, just if you give him a button within we just taught him a new button because he likes it when we turn the heater on for him. He likes to sit by the heater. So we gave him a new heater button, and he saw us push it 3 times. And after the third time, he got it and he started pushing it to request the heater turn on. And like, he's honestly at the point where we have done some public outings and he's handled it really well. So I'm like exceptionally proud of him. And so we're working on just kind of the finer details of like how to handle like other dogs being, being in public and being in those spaces when they're maybe a little bit more pushy than a service dog really should be. And then, handling like really big crowds and navigating and that kind of stuff. But he did so much work on his own. And the other thing I'm working on too is having him pick things up for me, which is a new task that he's getting there. He's getting the picking it up. He's working on the handing it to me.
I'm trying to keep my Labrador from completely crushing my laptop. He's like, "Oh, is this the laptop? Let me just roll on it."
Yeah, my dog will just close my laptop. He's figured out that
You're
he can just
done with feed me. The idea of the buttons I'm loving, but I'm also like, my youngest is 18 now and like just went off to college. And I'm like, do I really want something else that's telling me what it needs? I don't know.
Well, what I like about the buttons is we don't do whining anymore.
Oh, I do like that.
It used to be whining, kind of that irritated bark of like, "Wah," like, give me what I want sort of thing. And he stopped. He uses the buttons now. And he also
nice.
Seems more content with like, when we tell him no, he seems more content like, okay, you must have understood me and you're still saying no. Versus I think before he was like, clearly you don't get what I'm asking for.
This very much sounds like raising a toddler. This very, very much feels like that to me. I should probably let you go because we're at an hour. But real quickly, I always like to close this with what is your purchase under $100? So you're like, this was actually worth the money.
I think I'd go with my bath, pretty much any of my bath stuff, but especially my little bath tray. Love it. Little bath tray. Love the little bath keyboard. Life-saving.
So like our bathtub is very much like the pug can take a bath in it, but it is choose between knees and boobs because both are not happening. I need a good bathtub.
We choose where we live based on the bathtub. I need it. I need it in my life. We have a massive, beautiful bathtub, and like it's like the only like the key feature of our house. We're like, where are we gonna live? This place that has a great bathtub.
I feel like I screwed up. I did choose the house that was like one level for the wheelchair, but I did not find the house that had the bathtub. We're going to have to fix that. If we decide to stay in this country, we're going to need to actually do some renovations and get a bathtub that you could actually take a bath in. That would be great.
I live for the bathtub. I would not get by without it.
I feel that so hard. So your book is coming out in October, is that right?
Yeah, for October 7th. It's actually 2 books, Sirens Mark and Sirens Fall. It's a duology. It's a 2-part, but you can buy them both at once, so you don't have to wait for the other book to come out.
Well, by the time this airs, both books will be out. So if you're looking for your cozy, like Halloween-y read or just your way to avoid your family during the holidays, there's going to be 2 books that you can just obsessively read that are not Me Before You. Just put that down. It's okay. It's a lot like What to Expect When You're Expecting. Everyone seems to think you should read it. Please don't. Just in a drawer. It will not make you feel better, I promise. I cannot thank you enough for coming on, and I hope we get to talk to you again. I hope you'll come back when you have another book to promote. This has been absolutely lovely chatting with you.
Oh, this is great. Thank you.
All right. Well, everyone, be kind, be gentle, in whatever way it looks like to you, be fierce.